Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Medeva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankara Acharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः ओम श्री मेधा दक्षिणामूर्ति स्वामिने नमः ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति 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 हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम. So, namaste once again, everyone.
Namaste, Guruji.
Namaste, Guruji.
Namaste, Guruji.
Namaste, namaste, everyone. Please mark your attendance. Satyam jnanamanantam brahma vishuddham param swatas siddham nityanandaikarasam pratyak bhinnam nirantaram jayati. So, as we are seeing in sloka number 60, the Acharya said that what remains after the negation of the Panchakoshas is Atma, the self, the real self, higher self of an individual, which is a Sakshi, witness of all three states of experience. And this Atma is in the form of consciousness. Then in Shloka 61, he went on to describe this Atma as Swayam Jyotihi, self-effulgent, Panchakosha Vilakshanaha, distinct from the five koshas, Avastatraya Sakshi, witness of the three states of experience, Nirvikaraha, changeless, Niranjanaha, untainted by any association, and Sadanandaha, always of the nature of fullness, of the nature of Ananda, of the nature of happiness. And he also stated that this Atma should be known as oneself by one who is capable of Viveka. Then in response to a question raised by the student in Shloka number 62, wherein the student had queried whether the blankness experienced on negation of the Panchakoshas is Atma. The Acharya clarified in Shloka 63 and 64 that this Atma, the self, the knower and experiencer of all experiences in the waking state and also in the dream state, as well as the absence of experiences during the deep sleep state, it is also the knower and experience of the blankness which the student was talking about. This experiencer Atma is of the nature of consciousness, but it cannot itself be experienced. It is not an object of experience, but the very subject, yourself, the knower. Thereafter, in Shloka 65, the Acharya gave a brilliant description of Atma, the consciousness principle, which is the real meaning of the word I, which we use 100 times every day. He said that the Atma clearly shines independently by itself in the waking, dream, and sleep. always shining in the same form as I, innermost self, ahamiti, ahamiti. And this aham, this atma, objectifies the various forms and modifications right from ego, the ahankara onwards, and which shines in the form of ananda and consciousness that is not subject to time. It is beyond time and any other kind of limitation. So as I said in the last class, the entire teaching of Vedanta, Upanishads especially, including of course Bhagavad Gita, all those Vedanta-based scriptures, is centered around the knowledge of the real nature of the self, the individual, the microcosm. This is the first aspect of the Vedanta. The second aspect is it focuses on the knowledge of the real nature of the world, the macrocosm. And thirdly and finally, the knowledge about the interrelationship between the microcosm and the macrocosm. Therefore, the Mahavakya Tattvamasi is an equation. It is not a statement, it is an equation which needs to be solved through in-depth inquiry. Tat is equal to Tvam. How can Tat be equal to Tvam? This equation has to be solved through in-depth inquiry. And in Vedanta terminology, the inquiry into the real nature of the self is called Tvam Pada Vichara or Tvam Padartha. That is the first part of the inquiry. What is the real nature of the individual, the microcosm? Then the inquiry into the nature of the universe is called Tatpada Vichara or Tatpadartha, which is the inquiry into the macrocosm, the cosmos, the entire universe. What is the real nature of the universe? And finally, Vedanta ends with the inquiry into the real nature of the interrelationship between Tvam and Tat, the individual and the total, and which is called Asi Pada Vichara, Asi Padartha. So, Tat Tvam Asi has got three components. Each component is individually researched, inquired into with the help of the Shastra Pramanam and Guru Vakya, and come to the final conclusion of Tat is equal to Tvam. On the face of it, you cannot say that the microcosm and macrocosm are the same, or you can equate the two. That is why the inquiry is required to understand. It's just like, when we say theory of relativity, E is equal to mc square. Each component is different. But finally, we have to solve the equation by applying all the principles of physics, etc., mathematics. Come to the conclusion, E is equal to mc square. Similarly, Tat is equal to Tvam. That we have to come to that. So these are the three stages of Vedanta inquiry, which is what is undertaken through Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. And in the slokas from 61 to 65, the Acharya completed what? Tvam pada vichara, the real nature of the self, the Atma. From the verse 66 onwards, the Acharya takes up Tatpada Vichara, inquiry into the real nature of the cosmos, the totality, the changeless essential nature of the entire universe cosmos, which includes all living beings other than me and also all non-living beings, including the galaxies, including even time and space is inquired into. So the real nature of the infinite cosmos is expounded, and the Acharya said that the essential nature of the cosmos, the macrocosm, is what? Brahman. He gave a name, Brahman. Earlier we said Atma is the essence of every individual. Here we are saying Brahman is the universal self, or Brahman, the universal self, is the essence of the entire universe. So now we are coming to the Tatpadartha or Tatpada Vichara or Brahma Padartha, you can call it. And teacher is introducing the topic of Brahman for the first time. And for inquiry into this Brahman, we have to rely solely only on the Upanishads. Therefore, whatever we have to know about Brahman, we have to rely upon only Upanishads. So from this sloka number 67 onwards, Shankaracharya extracts messages about Brahman from different Upanishads. We saw in the last class Taittiriya Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, etc. And based on that, Shankaracharya gives the nature of Brahman. Both the Swarupa Lakshana, that is Brahman's nature as it is, and Tatastha Lakshanam, Brahman's nature as understood from the standpoint of the world, both are inquired into. So Brahman's nature as understood from the standpoint of the world is called Tatastha Lakshanam. So first he deals with Swarupa Lakshanam, nature of Brahman as it is. And it is given based on the famous Taittiriya mantra, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahma means the truth of the entire universe. Brahman is the ultimate truth of the entire universe. Only in Vedanta we talk about the ultimate truth. No other philosophy, no other thinkers, they have talked about the ultimate truth. And according to Vedanta, nobody can also talk about it because it is apaurushaya vishaya, beyond the human realm. Nobody can even conceive, no human being can conceive what Brahman is. So nobody will be able to find out. They will be researching all over. But they can never imagine that what they are searching for is my own self. I, the searcher of the truth, am the very truth. I am the ultimate truth of this entire universe. This they will not understand, they will not realize, they will go on searching everywhere. No scientist can so imagine. They are looking at the ultimate truth of the universe as an object, whereas Brahman is not an object, Brahman is the very subject. Even when Upanishad after Upanishad says so, a scientist will not believe also. If a scientist has to believe, he has to go through consistent and systematic study of Vedanta. Once he does that, he will no longer be called a scientist, he will be a Vedantin. Therefore, nobody can find the truth without the help of the scriptures. And that is why Shankaracharya also doesn't venture to define Brahman in his own words. He quotes here the very definition of Brahman taken from Taittiriya Upanishad. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Three aspects of Brahman described in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Satyam means absolute reality, which is different from empirical reality, that is the experiential world, which is also different from the subjective reality, which is the dream. In Vedanta, I think I have touched upon this earlier also, but still worth a recollection. In Vedanta, we talk about three types of reality. Pratibhasika Satyam, subjective reality, which is a dream. Pratibhasika reality, Vedanta gives other examples also. For example, what they call this, the seashells. When you look at from a distance, they will shine. Like what? Like silver. Shuktika Rajatam. But as you go near them and pick them up, you will find that there is no silver, it is only a seashell. That is Pratibhasika Satyam. It appears to be something else, but it is not that. So many examples are given. Subjective reality. Then Vyavaharika Satyam, the empirical reality, which we experience in the waking state. In the waking state, all our experiences seem to be real. Every object, we take it as real. And third state, third Satyam, third type of reality we talk about is Paramarthika Satyam, which is absolute reality, which is what is Vedanta says consciousness principle Brahman. Of these three, the subjective reality and empirical reality are within time and space. And both of them exist by borrowing reality. Because when we say truth or reality, anything which is true or which is real should be eternally true or real, isn't it? Something, if it is true today but not true tomorrow, we cannot call it that absolute truth. In all periods of time, it should be the truth, and beyond time also it should be the truth. That is what we can say it is absolute truth. So both the subjective reality and empirical reality don't fit into this definition of absolute truth. So even though they are experienced as reality, their reality, they exist by borrowing reality. The dream world borrows reality from the waker, the empirical individual. So subjective reality borrows reality from empirical reality. Empirical reality borrows reality from the absolute reality. And absolute reality is the only one which is intrinsically real. And therefore only absolute reality is only called Satyam. So in order to differentiate, we call it Paramarthika Satyam. Because if we tell the people that this world which you are experiencing, which you have been taking as real is not real, that will be the last day they will be attending Vedanta classes. They will say this Acharya has gone something wrong. I am experiencing this world. I am living in this world. I've got so many relatives. I can touch the objects. I can taste the things. I can see the things for myself. When I burn this, what is that, agarbatti, I get a nice smell. And this fellow is saying that these are all not real. And that is why Vedanta, even though does not very openly propound this three reality formula, Acharyas in the line, in the parampara, take pains to explain. They are not dismissing them as reality, but they are only saying that the degree of reality is different as compared to absolute reality. The reality which you experience in the waking world is a lesser type of reality because the world does not have intrinsic reality. The reality of the world is borrowed from the absolute reality. Therefore, we can define the absolute truth as that which has got an independent existence of its own. What is dependently existent cannot be absolutely real. And the stress is on the word independent. Because from the Vedantic point of view, other than Brahman, other than Atma, everything else is dependently existent, either in the form of empirical existence, that is the world, or in the form of subjective existence, that is the dream. But both of them are borrowed existence only. And therefore, Brahman is called absolute reality, having unborrowed existence or having its own existence. And therefore only it is eternal. And this Brahman will always exist. Even in Mahapralaya, when the entire world goes into unmanifest state, Brahman continues to exist. That's why, borrowed existence is temporary and can disappear, whereas unborrowed existence will always be existent. Because it is the very nature. Existence is the very nature of Brahman. One cannot change the nature. Just as a fire will always be hot because of its nature. Ice will always be cold because of its nature. Similarly, Brahman will ever be existent because of its nature. So, Satyam. This is how we have to understand the word Satyam. Then Jnanam. Jnanam means of the nature of consciousness. We have talked about the five-featured consciousness, which earlier we saw as the nature of the individual, of the Atma. Now Brahman's nature is presented as the very same consciousness. And we have to understand, so Atma is of the nature of consciousness. Now Brahman is presented as the very same consciousness. And this will be useful for us later to equate both the individual self and Brahman. To understand Mahavakya like Tattvamasi or Aham Brahmasmi. All this you have to remember to be recalled later and solve the equation. So Satyam Jnanam, then Anantam, a very, very important adjective. Anantam means limitless, indicating that the consciousness is not a temporary product existing only in the brain or somewhere, but consciousness is manifest in the brain and it exists outside the brain also. Because why brain? Because scientists believe that consciousness exists in the brain. Because the consciousness is I, the I notion exists is a part of intellect. We have already seen all that. Ego is a part of Vijnanamaya Kosha. So from that they have found that the consciousness is existing in the brain. But what we have to understand at Vedanta students is consciousness is indeed existing in the brain, but it is also exists outside the brain, because the Upanishad uses the word anantam, limitless, all pervasive. And this all pervasiveness of the consciousness is also known to us from Shastra Pramanam only. Of course, we can use yukti to support the Shastra Pramanam, but the primary means of knowledge is Shastra only. Suppose if a person says, I do not accept Shastra Pramanam, please prove logically how consciousness is all pervading. We will not be able to prove it. We will say, nobody can prove it, but we have got the Shastra Pramanam. Shastra says so. We have Shraddha in the Shastra. Unless somebody is able to disprove that consciousness is all pervading, till such time we will take Shastra Pramanam as our means of knowledge. And that Pramanam is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, occurring in Taittiriya Upanishad. And therefore Anantam is a very, very important aspect. A very important aspect, which is what gives understanding of moksha. As I said, nature of Brahman and nature of individual are finally equated. So when you say Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, it also means Satyam Jnanam Anantam Atma. And once you understand the Atma, the self as Anantam, limitless, that's it. Moksha is that. All our problems, samsaric problems, are because we take ourselves to be limited entities. Once you understand and assimilate this knowledge that you are limitless, moksha is there. That is moksha. And when we talk about anta means the limit, anantam means limitless, anantam, anantam, anantam. Vedanta talks about threefold limitations: spatial limitation, time-wise limitation, and object-wise limitation. Spatial limitation is what is found here and here only, not elsewhere. Like our body cannot be found in two places at the same time, isn't it? If that were so, people with two wives will have no problem. Then time-wise limitation. Of course, it doesn't matter whether anybody would want in today's world two wives, any sane person. It's a different matter. Anyhow, coming back to the topic. So, if object can be found in only one place and not elsewhere at the same time, is spatial limitation. Then time-wise limitation is that a thing is there during a particular period, particular time period only. So everything, all objects have got a date of birth and the date of death, a date of coming to existence and a date of becoming non-existent. This is time-wise limitation. And object-wise limitation is that an object can be only that object and not any other object. For example, a chair can be a chair only and not table. A person can be either a man or a woman and not both. This is called Vastu Paricheda, object-wise limitation. Somebody is unmuted. I request everybody to please mute. Background noise was coming. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Guruji.
So this is Vastu Paricheda, object-wise limitation. And Brahman, the Upanishad, by using the word Anantam, indicate that Brahman is free from spatial, time-wise and object-wise limitations, which means Brahman is not one of the objects in the creation. It is distinct from all other objects. In fact, it is not an object at all. Thus, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Then he uses three adjectives. Vishuddham, Param, Swataha Siddham. Vishuddham, it is pure, free from all types of physical, emotional, intellectual impurities in the form of even ignorance. Param, supreme, transcendental, absolute. Transcendental means not within the realm of time and space. Therefore, not related to any object within time and space. Non-relational. Then Swata Siddham, self-existent and self-revealing as the consciousness principle. That which is self-existent and self-evident is called Swata Siddham. It does not require any other source to reveal it. Self-effulgent, self-existent, self-revealing, all these are all meaning the same. Now going into the second line. Nityananda ekarasam pratyak bhinnam nirantaram jayati. Dicting this. Nitya ananda ekarasam pratyak abhinnam nirantaram jayati. This is how the words have to be split. Nitya ananda ekarasam. It is of the nature of eternal ananda. This also we saw before as the nature of Atma, isn't it? While discussing Anandamaya Kosha, we talked about reflected or experiential Ananda. And at that time we said, reflected Ananda is possible only because Atma happens to be the original Ananda, like the original face. We cannot have a reflected face in the mirror without the original face, isn't it? And there we talked about the original Ananda indirectly because we were focusing on the experiential Ananda in Anandamaya Kosha. Here we say Brahman is that original Ananda, non-experiential Ananda. When we talked about Anandamaya Kosha, we talked about three grades. Here the Ananda is non-graded Ananda. And it is Nitya or eternal Ananda. And what type of Ananda it is? He says Eka Rasam. In fact, this word ekarasam is used for happiness or ananda. And it is used for consciousness also. It is a very, very significant word in Vedanta, conveying a very unique concept. We are getting deeper and deeper into Vedanta Vichara. But we can't help it. I mean, because when you go into Upanishads and all that, it will be of a much more higher level. Lot of thinking is involved in Vedanta, I can tell you. Vedanta is not storytelling. Vedanta is no less than what we talk about quantum physics and all that. And that is why Vedanta is not for everybody. Most people don't want to think, or they are incapable of thinking rather. You have to, it's telescopic, like one level you cross, then you go into a deeper level, a deeper level, a deeper level. Goes on and on and on. Of course, initial stages, there will be certain difficulties, certain challenges, but as you go forward, once you have understood what is there in the initial stages, later stages become much easier. So, to understand this word ekarasam comprehensively, only Vedanta will not be helpful. We have to take recourse to Tarka Shastra also. Even though, of course, if we bring in Tarka Shastra, some of you may feel a little more complicated. But still, I don't want to go too deep into Tarka Shastra, but that is not our aim here. But still, to understand, give you a taste of how Vedanta Vichara takes place. In fact, you can see this full blown in Brahma Sutra Bhashya. Adi Shankara's Brahma Sutra Bhashya. All different shastras which you can apply to disprove or prove a point, he will bring into the discussion. So when I give you something about Tarka Shastra, if you don't follow, it doesn't matter. At least you will, I'm sure you will be able to appreciate the link between Vedanta and Tarka Shastra. In Tarka Shastra, they talk about everything in the creation as a mixture of two things. Now don't say Atma, Anatma, that is Vedanta definition. Everything in the creation is a mixture of Atma, Anatma is Vedanta. Tarka Shastra says everything in the creation is a mixture of two things. One is the substance and another is the attribute. So everything in the creation has to be in the form of a pair consisting of substance and attribute. Purest substance will be free from every other thing. But even the purest substance will have its own attributes which define and specify that substance. This is all Tarka Shastra. Huh? Therefore, Tarka Shastra says you can never have a substance without any attributes. Also, you cannot have an attribute without a substance. So the whole world is made up of substance attribute duality, which is inseparable. And they give it a term. It's called Samavaya Sambandha. It is so close, you cannot separate the substance and the attribute. So a substance means that which is a locus of some attribute or the other. And this Tarka Shastra proposition is generally accepted by many other branches of our Indian philosophical systems. Only Advaita Vedanta, not even Vishishta Advaitam. Only Advaita Vedanta says this duality or internal division, or what is called Swagata Beda, is applicable only within the field of Anatma. It does not apply to Atma. When you come to the Atma realm, there is no substance attribute duality. There is no internal division or Swagata Beda. So according to Vedanta, Atma is neither a substance nor associated with any attributes. Atma is not the locus of some attribute or the other. So based on the Tarka logic, Vedanta says you cannot call Atma as a substance. This is the Vedanta's standpoint. Now what about consciousness? Can you call consciousness as a substance or attribute? In Tarka Shastra, they treat Atma as substance and consciousness as attribute. Vedanta denies both. Vedanta says Atma is not a substance. Consciousness is not an attribute also. Then what is that? Vedanta says Atma is consciousness. I am Ganapathy. I cannot be different from Ganapathy, isn't it? You cannot say I is you when you say I means me, and Ganapathy is my attribute. It's one and the same. Atma is consciousness. It is neither a substance nor an attribute. It does not come under any category. What about Ananda, happiness? Again, Vedanta says Ananda is neither a substance nor an attribute. It does not fall within the substance attribute, Swagata Beta or duality. And how does that Shastra convey that? By using this word Ekarasam. So, when we say Ekarasam, it means that which doesn't fall within substance attribute dichotomy or duality. So, Atma or Brahman is Ananda Swarupaha and it is Chaitanya Swarupaha. The word Swarupa means that it is neither an attribute nor a substance. It is attribute Vyatirikta Nityananda Ekarasam. That is how we have to understand the word Ekarasam. Because all these philosophical teachings are not only addressing the students, the people from other beliefs, other philosophies are also waiting in the wings to disprove what Vedanta says, what Upanishad says. They've got their own theories. We don't tell them you don't have your theories. But they want to attack Vedanta. They want to say Vedanta is all wrong understanding of the Upanishads. So Vedanta uses certain terminologies, Ekarasam. And Shankaracharya, of course, you cannot fault him. He will use exactly the terminology which is required to describe anything. So Nityananda Ekarasam. Then Pratyak Abhinnam. Here, of course, Pratyak Abhinnam is a proposition he states here. But Pratyak Abhinam itself is a Mahavakya, which will be elaborated in the third stage of teaching. Pratyak Abhinam means not different from the individual self. Pratyak, we have seen, Pratyak Rupataya as inner self. Abhinnam, non-different. As I said, this is the subject there. Non-difference between the individual self and the total self, or the totality, individual and totality, is the subject matter of the third stage of teaching. Aikya Vichara or Asipadartha. We will deal with that more at that time. Here he is only giving a proposition while describing the nature of Brahman. He says Pratyak Abhinam. Brahman, the ultimate absolute reality, is not different from the individual self, the Atma. Therefore, the revised I is the absolute truth. That is the indication given here, which we, as I said, will discuss further in the third stage. Pratyak Bhinnam is a compound word. Two words are Pratyak and Abhin. Anyhow, then Nirantaram Jayati always stands out as the ultimate reality, which will be there even after dismissing everything else. It will always be present. It can never ever be dismissed. It stands out as the superior most principle. In Sanskrit, the word Jayati is used. Jayati literally means to stand victorious. Here we translate it as remain supreme all the time. And whenever you say supreme self, people use, some Acharyas use supreme self and all. This is the idea. Transcendental. So all this is what Swarupa Lakshanam of Brahman. The nature of Brahman. Now we go into the Tatastha Lakshanam of Brahman, in which Brahman is revealed in relation to the world, so that with the help of the world, by contrasting it with it, we can try to capture or grasp what is Brahman. But once the relationship is known, through that, we can actually scramble and arrive at Brahman. Otherwise, we will find that the Swarupa Lakshanam is too abstract to conceive of. And therefore, the Tatastha Lakshanam is given for the facility of our understanding. So here we inquire into what is that relationship between Brahman and the world, the Jagrat Prapancha that we are experiencing. As I said, all profound teaching. We are now into the core of Vedanta, in fact. Core of Vedanta. We will read the verse number 68. Sadbrahma karyam sakalam sadaiva sanmatrametat natatonyadaste astiti yo bhakti natasya mohaha vinirgato nidritavat prajalpaha. Another nice sloka. Anvaya is Sadbrahma karyam sakalam etat sada eva sanmatram tatah anyat na asti. Asti iti yaha bhakti tasya mohaha na vinirgataha nidritavat prajalpaha. Sad Brahma Karyam, the product of Brahman, that is existence. Sakalam, all. Etad, this. Sada eva, always. Sanmatram, existence alone. Tataha, apart from that Brahman. Anyat, any another thing. Na asti, is not there. Asti, another thing is there. Iti, thus. Yaha, who. Vakti says. Tasya, his moha, delusion, na vinirgataha, is not gone. Nidritavat prajalpaha, like the blabbering of a dreaming man. Sometimes Shankaracharya uses very strong words. I think it is, his point is that by using those strong words for ignorant people, people will be, yeah, everybody wants to show themselves as knowledgeable. Nobody wants to show themselves as ignorant, isn't it? So there lies a formula. If you say that you are by ignorant, you are stupid, then you don't want to be stupid, so you will come to the gain the knowledge. Anyhow, that's an aside. So what it says, this entire world, having come from Brahman, that is of the nature of existence, is always existence Brahman alone. There is nothing other than Brahman. That person's delusion is not gone who says that there is another thing apart from Brahman. His words are like the blabbering of a dreaming man. Now we come to the question of what is the relationship between Brahman and the world. Upanishad says Brahman is the cause, the karanam of the world. Sad Brahma Karyam Sakalam. Sakalam means here refers to the entire Jagrat Prapancha, the waking world, the universe that we experience in the waking state. As I said, which includes everything, all galaxies, includes all Panchabhutas, includes time and space. The entire Jagrat Prapancha, Sakalam, is born out of Brahman only. Therefore, this world is Karyam, the product, and Brahman is the Karanam, the cause. And how did Brahman become the cause of the creation? How did Brahman create the world? For that, we have to recollect something we have seen before. Because as such, the unabridged Vivekachudamani itself is a very tight teaching. And within that, Swami Paramarthanandaji has selected 108 verses, which makes the teaching much more tighter. You cannot relax even for a moment. Every class has been packed very tight. And I hope that you are all able to withstand it. Because beginners, they may find it too loaded. And therefore, they will require several rounds of listening. And the beauty of Vedanta is that as even you listen again and again, you will slowly gain the clarity. Because there are many concepts which are unique, belonging only to Vedanta. Like the concept that there is something which is neither substance nor attribute. This is not there in any other philosophical systems. Atma, Brahman are all specific to Vedanta only. Even Visishta Advaita says, accepts Atma, accepts Brahman, but does not say they are equal. They say Atma is a part of Brahman. Therefore, all these will all remain as mere words if they are not understood properly. If they have to make sense, you have to apply your mind again and again. And not only you have to understand and grasp, you have to apply some of those teachings in later portions also. You have to remember what we have studied earlier. Because nothing is useless. Every day, entire Vivekachudamani is like a garland, it's a thread. One bead after one bead, and everything is very, very essential for us to understand the entire thing. And we have now in the last stage of Vivekachudamani, where Atma, Brahman, the crux or the core of Vedanta teaching is being dealt with. So, in this context, when we say Brahman is the cause of the world, Brahman is the cause, the Karanam, and world is the product or the Karyam, what we should use from our earlier learnings. We discussed the Karana Shariram in verse number 31 to 33. And there, for Karana Shariram, we used 4 words. Avyaktam, Avidya, Maya, and Paramesha Shakti. And when we saw Paramesha Shakti, I told you that the word Paramesha refers to the consciousness principle. In Vedanta, in the context of creation, consciousness or Brahman is called God, Ishvara. Once the topic of creation comes, Brahman is renamed as Paramesha, the supreme God. Param Isha Paramesha. Parama Isha Paramesha. And when I say supreme God, do not imagine Rama, Krishna, Devi, etc. Beautiful body, very beautiful eyes, as described in Vishnu Sahasrama, Saundarya Lahari, etc. They are all initial stages of God definition for preparing our mind for acclimatization. We must remember, spiritual journey is traveling from Eka Rupa Ishvara to Aneka Rupa Ishvara, that is Vishwarupa Ishvara, and then reach Arupa Ishvara. So in Vedantic context, God means Brahman, Brahman means God, and both refer to the consciousness principle. And we said Brahman has got Maya as its power, Maya Shakti. This power of Brahman has got, this Maya Shakti has got 2 divisions, isn't it? We saw all that. Vikshepa Shakti and Avarana Shakti. I hope you remember all that. I'm sure you are remembering it. Otherwise, after the class, please go and revise those portions, because it's very important to have that in mind for understanding this Tatastha Lakshana. So Vikshepa Shakti is the power of projecting, the power of what we call the throwing out. And we discussed an example also. Just we have got the Nidra Shakti. So once we take to Nidra and go to sleep, we have the power to project a dream world of varieties of names, forms, functions, etc. Nama, Rupa, Karma. Similarly, in the Maya, all names, forms, and functions are in dormant condition, in seed form. And Brahman is there supporting that Nama, Rupa, Karma. Therefore, Brahman and Maya Shakti, its creative power, otherwise called Vikshepa Shakti, was there. And from that Brahman, at the time of creation, governed by the inbuilt law of karma, which is operational in Maya, the universe evolved. We must carefully note here, when it says the universe evolved from Brahman, it means Brahman with its power, which is Maya Shakti. Because Brahman alone itself doesn't do anything. In its presence, Maya gets expanded, then projected, then thrown out. Just as the existence of many vasanas in our minds, which we are not aware of, they get thrown out in the form of dream universe the moment we go to sleep. Similarly, all the names, forms, and functions called Avyakta Nama Rupani, it gets projected, the universe gets projected. We'll see more of it in the next class. It's a very, very involved topic. If you have got any doubts and all that, any questions, please mark them. You can raise in this class or next class also. It's a very deep subject. Okay, I'll say the prayers. Om Purnamada Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you all very much.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ ಗುರುಜಿ.
धन्यवाद धन्यवाद
Dhanyawad,
गुरुजी
Guruji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji. ಧನ್ಯವಾದ ಗುರುಜಿ.
Hari Om Guruji. Hari Om.
Namaskaram, Guruji. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Namaskaram.
Sitaram. Oh, Sitaram is there.
Yeah, I'm at the airport, sitting at Bangalore airport and listening to it.
Okay. Right.
Thank you, Guruji.
Spying, so that is why. Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you all. Any questions?
I have sent you a message since I was not. So if you can look at it and then we discuss in the next class.
Yeah. You can
Yes,
do
Guruji, we can discuss it in the next class.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it seems no hands are going up. But, it was very. I'm sure that the class was a little bit overwhelming, but we can't.
Guruji, Namaste, Guruji. Just sharing my thoughts about something that was said in the last class. Like you said, mentioned that bhakti yoga cannot lead to the ultimate knowledge, or just the karma yoga cannot lead to ultimate knowledge. But then we were also saying about whenever you look at the statements or the poems of any of the saints, they all are nothing but the teachings of they teach Advaita Vedanta. All the saints, there was a bhakti era where all the saints, there were a lot of saints in South India and North India, and so the bhakti itself can ultimately lead to the knowledge, the ultimate knowledge as well. But it takes, as you rightly said, even if whether you study scriptures or not, you take the first step of bhakti, and then that will lead to the other steps, and then it leads to the ultimate knowledge. Is that possible? And that's possible because of when you look at the lives of the saints and their teachings.
Well, that's why I say bhakti. When we say there is nothing separately called bhakti. Bhakti is a part of karma yoga.
Yes,
There as part of karma, because karma yoga sadhanas not only bhakti. Bhakti is one aspect of karma yoga sadhana, right? There are other aspects also. All put together, what it leads to? It leads to chitta shuddhi only. Bhakti also leads to chitta shuddhi only. And that is why a sadhaka is advised to do puja, prayers, and parayanams, etc. Start with Ekarupa Ishvara, no problem at all. Take any Bhagavan as your Ishtadevata, any idol as Ishtadevata. The idea is not in the form. Idea is in your bhava, in your own, the way you approach it.
Yes.
So that will certainly lead to chitta. All these saints, whether it is Sadashiva Brahmendra or, we talk of Purandara Dasa, anybody you take, they have chitta shuddhi through all these means only, and bhakti has been a very, very important component of that, because they have actually composed a lot of songs which are very popular.
Yeah.
Today we will not know Sadashiva Brahmendra, Purna, or other Purandaradasa and all. We know them only because of they have composed the songs.
Yes.
Now, when we actually go into the meaning of the songs that they have composed, we find that it is all Advaita Vedanta only they are talking.
Yes,
So
Guruji.
what they have done, Shankara might have written a bhashyam, right? Whereas these people have converted the Advaita Vedanta philosophy. They have seen Advaita Vedanta through the angle of bhakti and composed these songs. So you are absolutely right. I mean, bhakti, but bhakti alone. For example, if you sit before Bhagavan and do 24/7 meditation or japa, it won't give you jnana.
No, bhakti
Jnana-
is something different, no, Guruji. Bhakti
is
is
not
something that's in
different.
the heart. That's in the heart.
It is
That
not
is
different.
like love.
That is what I am trying to tell you. Bhakti is a sentiment, or it's an attitude.
Yeah.
Bhakti is an attitude. Which attitude you need to develop for gaining the knowledge.
The prerequisite. It's the prerequisite.
Exactly. So
Okay.
those Mahans, they don't need to read the Upanishads to gain this knowledge.
Yes, Guruji.
They
Thank you,
have
Guruji,
the
about
knowledge,
that.
they have converted it through bhakti, that's all. See,
Thank you,
what our
Guruji.
problem in our life is, and unfortunately the rule, 200 years, 300 years British rule, we try to see everything like black and white. If it is this, it is not this, and all that. In fact, yesterday I was actually listening to a very nice small clip of a video somebody had sent to me. He says that in our culture, there is nothing called vegetarian, non-vegetarian. Because this is the whole problem, eating habits when it comes. We will deal with that in Bhagavad Gita in the 17th chapter where Krishna talks about it. But you see where all our problems come. Whenever it comes to eating, what we do, are you a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian? Correct? Means what? Non-vegetarian means he will not consume any animal products. Animal or animal products, correct? But we all drink milk. We all, from the milk we get curd and ghee, etc. We consume that. Is that not an animal product? So are you sure you are a vegetarian? This kind of question comes up because we are classifying into vegetarian, non-vegetarian. Bhakti, jnana. They are not different. In fact, in our culture, there is no such classification. Classification of the foods that we consume is only in terms of three gunas: sattva guna, rajo guna, and tamo guna. Whether the source is animal or plant, irrespective of that, we have to look at the guna of the foods. And if you are a spiritual seeker, your aim is to increase the proportion of sattvic guna in your life, the content of sattvic guna. Then you avoid all rajo guna and tamo guna foods. And milk of a cow, milk of a goat, or any animal milk, including human milk, comes under sattva guna. So we have to understand that why Brahmins are eating all milk products and they are all hypocrites and they say that we should not eat meat and all that. Meat itself is rajoguna. So we have to understand that there is no such dichotomy. Everything is all combined only. Similarly, bhakti is not a separate thing. Jnanam is not a separate thing. Karma yoga is not a separate thing. Only differentiation you can say is jnanam gives moksha. Karma yoga which includes bhakti also, prepares your mind, your intellect for absorbing that knowledge, which is not very easy, as we have seen in today's class. If you have to absorb what is being said in the Upanishads, you require a high degree of mental purity, very subtle mind, very sharp mind. It is just like, you doctors operate upon some part in the eye. You cannot use some big scalpel to do that, right? You have a very, very subtle, very thin instrument to do that cataract operation. I'm not talking about the laser and all that today, even otherwise the traditional cataract operation. You have to use a very, very subtle instrument for that. Similarly, your mind has to be very, very subtle to absorb all this knowledge. And bhakti, as a part of karma yoga, is one of the sadhanas that one needs to follow.
Yes, Guruji. Thank you very much about that, Guruji. Then, as we ended today's session, you were saying about Brahma himself is he cannot, he does not either create or he does not destroy. He doesn't do anything.
Action.
No action. So, in the presence of Maya, in his presence, Maya gets activated and the world is thrown out.
Yes.
So, can we say this? The world is a dream of Brahman then?
No. Brahman has not no personality, is consciousness. There is no attribute. Maya is like a dream. You can say the entire world is like a dream. And the only comparison is the dream that we have.
Okay.
Because our dream consists of two things. One is all the vasanas and our experiences stored somewhere, which is what gets activated as a dream when we go to sleep.
Yes.
So the entire world, which is in avyakta form at the time of pralayam, unmanifest form, gets activated because of the presence of Brahman, and the whole creation comes into existence.
Okay.
That is how we have to understand. And
Okay.
the entire world is Maya, entire world is Maya.
No.
So it is like a dream, you can say.
Right. Okay. Okay, Guruji. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you. Any other question? Okay, I think no hands have gone up. We will close the session. Continue next week. I
Thank
suggest
you,
that
Guruji.
next week you revise what we learned today. It will be easier to follow that. Okay. Hari Om. Thank you all.
Hari Om. Thank you, Guruji.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om.